All this conversation happens where Joe Biden...
To be fair, this isn't on like a news network, but...
left us in a terrible situation, and the reason why gas prices are where they are today is because of Donald Trump's work to get them lower, because in the Biden administration, they were crazy high. The gas prices we're seeing today are nothing like what we saw at the peak of the Biden administration because the president has set us up for energy dominance. And one of the lessons we all have to take away, frankly, every time we get involved in anything overseas, whether it's in the Middle East or anywhere else, the thing we got to take away from it is energy dominance and energy independence.
Jesus. What are the I just need some, what are the last, I guess I can just literally look at any, I don't know, Fox News interview. Fox News, what are the last big interviews they've done? Fox News video. Rubio, what are you talking about?
President Trump has been briefed as the search continues for the second crew member of an F-15E fighter jet that went down over Iran. And it comes as the president reportedly says the downing of that jet will not affect his negotiations with Iran as the conflict now enters the sixth week. The jet went down near Karg Island, and the pilot was ejected safely. A second U.S. jet was also reportedly targeted and hit near the Strait of Hormuz. Let's bring in now former U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Kurt Volker. Kurt, I'll just get your top-line thoughts here.
Can I... Hold on, I didn't see anybody else give this read, okay? I'm so curious. Trump gave an interview to... Fuck, who was it? Trump gave an interview to somebody like a month and a half ago. And one of the things the guy asked Trump was, would you guys invade that Karg Island and take it over? And Trump got like uncharacteristically ass-pained about that question. I wonder if he got ass-pained because they were already planning it, that was going to happen. And the guy calling it out was like, fuck, why are you giving away my plans? Does anybody remember who he was talking to? Was it Gutfeld? No. Was it? No, it was like a more dick sucky guy. Because Trump was like, you're a really smart guy. Oh, it was... Is it Kill? It's a guy I've talked to before, I think. Fuck, what was it? Is it No, what's the guy's name? Is it Kilmeade? Wait, have I talked to Kilmeade before? I thought it was a guy that I've... Why do I have Gutfeld Salmon here? Oh, no, was it this? Oh, wait, no, maybe it's not a guy I talked to. Maybe it was this.
Well, Mr. President.
He got so mad when he brought this up. And this is like a whole dick suck interview, and Trump got mad about it.
Beating us up psychologically, making us look like a bunch of fools. One bullet shot of one of our men or ships, I do a number on Karg Island. I go in and I take it. Now here in 2026, you are president. Are you thinking about taking Karg Island where 90% of the Iranian oil goes through? And what do you think about, do you remember that interview and that school of thought?
Yeah, but Brian, I can't answer a question like that. You should ask it. You should be even asking it. It's one of so many different things. It's not high on the list, but it's one of so many different things. And I can change my mind in seconds. But, if you had to ask a question, who would answer a question like that? I mean, you're asking me a question, Karg Island, okay, everything. Who would ask a question like that? And what fool would answer it, okay? Let's say I was going to do it, or let's say I wasn't going to do it. What would I tell you? Oh, yes, Brian, I'm thinking about doing it. Let me let you know what time and when it'll take place. It's not, it's sort of a foolish question. A little surprising for you because you're a smart man.
I am, but you were just pretty amazing that you thought about it in 1988. So,
well, I did, but I thought about a lot of other things. You know what else I thought?
He's so mad that he brought that up. That's funny, because I think somebody said it was within 18 hours we started hitting that island. Is that true? So I think he was mad because this guy, like, I wouldn't say predicted it, but he brought up a thing Trump said. Trump's like, fuck, how does this guy know? What the fuck? Trump, basically, anytime he goes on Fox News and lies about anything. Did Kristi Noem lie about when she said Alex Preddy was armed? I know she did that at like a press conference. Did she bring that up on a Fox show? Fuck. I want like a Fox News.
All right, and tonight, all eyes on Minneapolis, where anti-ICE protests continue to sweep the city following a second fatal shooting involving immigration officials over the weekend. Here now with the very latest, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. Madam Secretary, thanks for being with us. I want to talk about how untenable the whole situation is and why. I'm going to get to that. There seems to be two criticisms that have emerged, and I want to give you a chance to address them. One was an ex-post 2.5 hours after the Preddy shooting that an individual approached the officer with a 9mm semi-automatic. Officers feared for their safety, and that's why the shooting occurred. It seems, as you look at videos, that the weapon may have been stripped, though, before that happened. And I guess my question is, was that statement premature?
Well, Sean, I know you realize that that situation was very chaotic and that we were being relayed information from on the ground from CBP agents and officers that were there. We were using the best information we had at the time, seeking to be transparent with the American people and get them what we knew to be true on the ground. So we will continue to follow the investigation that the FBI is leading and giving them all the information that they need to bring that to a conclusion and make sure that the American people know the truth of the situation and how we can go forward and continue to protect the American people.
As untenable as this is, and all these politicians pouring gasoline on what is already a difficult situation, and that's enforcement of the law, arresting the worst of the worst, and I'll get to that in a minute. The president's called for a full investigation. Stephen Miller seemed to concede that maybe some protocols weren't followed. Again, everything's hindsight 2020, and these things go down very quickly. Any lessons to be learned? Handle things differently going forward?
Well, Sean, that's part of the reason why we have several layers of an investigation here. We believe that we can always do better, and we seek to do that every single day. And we want to make sure that we not only improve protocols on the ground in chaotic and volatile situations like this, but that we continue to find the truth around this situation and get the facts to the American people and make sure that we continue to do our work every day with integrity, but that we continue to be able to get criminals and dangerous people off the streets like these officers have been doing for months, ever since President Trump came back into office. They take an oath to go out and protect these communities and to keep them safe, and that's one of the jobs that they take very seriously, especially in Minneapolis, as we've seen this kind of violent riots go forward and attack them.
I think in the Renee Good case, it was more clear-cut because we had the video. Clearly, she accelerated towards an officer.
Clearly.
Injuries were incurred by the officer, internal bleeding, as I understand it. If I'm wrong, correct me on that. I think in this case, it's a little bit different. Although I don't know why he was there with a loaded gun, and this other incident raises questions I'll ask you about in a minute here. But people seem to be upset over the term domestic terrorism.
This week, President Trump presided over a Homeland Security Task Force roundtable on the ongoing crackdown on drug cartels.
Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard was there, laying out the grim brutality of these cartel crimes.
Wait.
The arrest of a Sinaloa cartel boss.
Nope, that's not it. Hold on. Tulsi Gabbard, Fox News, Obama, Russia. I know she was on Fox News talking about this. Was it here?
Important issue, and I just want to start by saying that this is an issue that is important to every single one of us as Americans. This is not a partisan issue. It has to do with the integrity and the strength of our democratic republic. And it lays out this over 100 documents that you're referencing that I released, declassified and released, spells out in great detail exactly what happens when you have some of the most powerful people in our country directly leading at the helm, President Obama and his senior most national security cabinet, James Comey, John Brennan, James Clapper.
Fuck, all three of these are with Hannity. Whatever, it's Fox News, doesn't matter. Is Hannity their largest host now? Without Tucker Carlson there? Oh, is Jesse Waters bigger? Him and Jesse Waters are their prime time hosts. Okay. Okay, friendly conversion platforming. You show both audiences understand that there's some disagreement between both sides, with the goal of emphasizing similarities while potentially noting some disagreements between you, focusing on building on the similarities between both sides, but camaraderie, both parties, audiences. To build camaraderie. Wait, focusing on building both sides. Focusing on how closely united they should be against the opposing side. Against the not participating? It's not in the conversation. against third party. Okay. Okay. Friendly conversation platforming. This is where I would say all of the podcast bros show up. Donald Trump on... How many different shows did he show up on? We had Joe Rogan, Tim Pool, Theo Vaughn, Andrew Schultz. For Andrew Schultz, did they have any significant disagreements at all? Did Donald Trump talk to Dave Smith? Donald Trump on Joe Rogan. Donald Trump on Tim Pool.
I'm Hannah Claire Brimwell. I'm a writer for SCNR.com. That's Scare News. I'm
from the Congo. They're coming in from all parts of Africa. They're coming in from all parts of Asia, and it's an invasion into our country, and no country can handle this. So we're going to have them taken out. Local police. We're going to work very closely with the
Theo Vaughn.
I have some tour dates to tell you about. I'll be in Las Vegas, Nevada over Labor Day weekend. If you're going to be there, then I will too. I'll be in Bend, Oregon, Spokane, Washington, Portland, Oregon, Vancouver in the Canada, Oklahoma City, North Little Rock, Springfield, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, Sioux Falls, La Crosse.
What?
Who do you think tried to take?
Mm-hmm. 6 feet under? I haven't even heard of that. Stop. Bussin' with the boys. Theo Vaughn, Aiden Ross, Lex Friedman.
I don't know if you know this, but some people call you.
Adversarial conversation. Conversion. Why am I putting conversion? Conversation. Okay. I know I did a lot of the adversarial conversation platforming. Maybe Pete Buttigieg as well, I think. Pete Buttigieg on, he went on Flagrant, right? Thank you, Unpopular Opinions. On Andrew Schultz. Many of my interviews. I don't put myself. I don't know this myself. just leave this, I guess. Okay. And then hostile platforming is show up with both audiences, understanding there's a massive ideological contention between both sides with the goal of having a very critical conversation. So this would be Caitlin Collins interviewing basically anyone from the Trump admin. Piers Morgan and Jubilee style shows. Oh, I think Gavin Newsom's podcast fits under the adversarial conversation platforming.
Okay, everybody.
Okay. It is important that people have a clear understanding of what kind of conversation they are prepared to engage with. Conversations where the understanding is different between both parties will end in disaster, generally for the party invited to the talk. Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz thought he was signing up for a friendly conversation, friendly conversation, adversarial conversation, and hostile platforming. Wait, I need a different word here. Same team platforming? Same team platform, I guess. Okay. I don't know. Ted Cruz said he was signing up for a same team or friendly conversation. With Tucker Carlson, but Carlson was intending for... Would I say this was hostile? I would. For a hostile conversation leading to many Cruz blunders, which made him look foolish. Okay. Many times there are Democratic candidates who are trying to engage with social or alternative media, who are trying to engage with the social or alternative media landscape who assume they are walking into friendly or same team or friendly environments, but are repeatedly taken surprise by hostile conversations. The Slotkin one is a big one. I think there have been others as well, right? Slotkin versus is it Breaking Points? Jesus, even the title of this video is crazy. Crystal and Sager grill Dem senator on Epstein, Zohran, and Israel.
Joining us now, Senator.
Damn. Crystal Ball. Ugh, is that really her name? There's no way. Grilling. Remember when RFK joined their podcast and they asked him the same thing and didn't care when he was pro-Israel? Wait, is that true? Hold on. RFK Jr. Breaking Points. Trump humiliates RFK Jr. with round 08. How long ago would this have been? RFK Jr. challenged on Israel, free speech, and Epstein.
Joining us now, Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Versus grilled.
Very pleased to bring you all today an
What was his stance? Now, this was December 15th, 2023. Slotkin was 2025. These are quite a time period apart now. Is there anything that was more recent with RFK Jr. and Breaking Points? Because you could argue that the war got worse for the Palestinians, so maybe it would make sense why they're more aggressive later on about it now.
very pleased
I don't know. Fuck. I can listen real quick, I guess.
and specifically the topic of Israel, obviously very much in the news right now. So President Biden's administration, they have said that they have no red lines for the state of Israel and their conduct in this war. Do you have any red lines for Israel?
Well, the red lines are that you don't deliberately, you do everything you can, which I think Israel is doing right now, to avoid civilian casualties. But there's collateral damage in every war, and they're fighting an implacable enemy. I mean, I don't think there's any country in the world that would go as
I think Bulwark has covered a ton of these examples. Well, link me.
far as Israel has gone to not invade Gaza. I mean, Israel was being bombed by Hamas, took over Gaza. Israel walked out of Gaza. There's no occupation of Gaza. Israel,
blockade, though.
Well, there's a blockade because Hamas declared war on Israel and sent suicide bombers off. So they put up a fence. So it's their, that's like the guy who kills his parents and then throws himself on the mercy of the court because he's an orphan. For them to say that they're blockaded, they're blockaded. Yeah, they're blockaded. And it's not just Israel blockading them; it's Egypt. Everybody has a problem with Hamas. In fact, after the 73 war, after the 67 war, Israel tried to give Hamas back to Egypt, and Egypt didn't want to take it because Gaza back to Egypt. Egypt didn't want to take it because of the high level of sort of religious militant Islam that Egypt considered a threat to its own government. Let me just finish.
Sure.
Israel, Hamas took over in 2006,
right?
And they immediately started shelling Israel. So they sent on average 2,000 rockets a year on civilian populations, and their charter and their public statements day after day are it's against Islamic law for them to even negotiate with Israel, except as a ruse. It says that in their charter. The only satisfaction for them, the only goal, is to annihilate Israel and kill every Jew, not just in Israel, but all around the world. So Israel, instead of going in and attacking, if Mexico elected a communist government, and the communist government began sending shells onto civilian populations in San Antonio and Houston and say, we're going to retake Texas, which they have a legitimate claim to. We're going to retake it. How long would it take us to go in there? It wouldn't take us very long. We would go in and we would do whatever it took to take out the people who were sending the shells. And Israel, instead of doing that, Israel did something extraordinary, which is it invested in an Iron Dome, which is to defend itself against just a little bit. So there's thousands, tens of thousands of Israelis that have, on that part of Israel that have been raised in bomb shelters. Who would put up with that? There's nobody in the world.
No one here is excusing the actions of Hamas, but I think you agree that one atrocity does not justify another. So how can you hold on? How can you say though? How can you say? I haven't finished my question. How can you say that Israel is doing everything they can to avoid civilian death, when the civilian death toll, even by Israeli estimates, and this is the low, this is the best possible number you could put on it, is 61% innocent civilians, thousands of children, thousands of women. That's worse than the combination of every 20th century conflict combined. So how can you look at that and combine with the complete siege of 2.2 million people and say that they're doing everything they can to protect civilian life?
First of all, what you said is not true. We killed 750,000 civilians in Iraq. Just like percentage-wise.
Percentage-wise.
750. What is that? I've heard the 500,000 one. 750,000. Where is this? Jesus.
The percentage of the average kill rate in Afghanistan, Mosul, in those battles, in modern warfare is about 8 or 9 to 1 civilians and military.
And you think that's fine? 8% civilian death?
I don't think a single civilian death is fine. Not a single, but when we went into Germany to get out the Nazis, we killed 2 million Germans. We bombed Dresden.
Which is why, and actually there's an analysis that just came out that showed the bombing of northern Gaza has been more devastating and more destructive than our bombing of Dresden. I would also say after World War II, that's why we put in place things like the Geneva Conventions, to make sure that we did as much as we could to protect civilian life. So let me give you a specific report that you can respond to. The Washington Post, we can put this up on the screen, guys, this is the second element. The Washington Post just reported that Israel dropped U.S.-supplied white phosphorus in an attack in Lebanon in a way that is inconsistent with the laws of war, directly impacting a civilian population. Are these, and now you might say, look, maybe the report's in dispute, maybe we need to go and investigate, but is this or any other of Israeli conduct in this war, is this something that you think should be investigated for potential violations of international law?
Again, if Israel dropped white phosphorus on civilian populations illegally.
I can't really compare these two interviews because I don't think RFK is like in a public office here. I don't even know if he was on the Republican side yet. I think he was still running as a Democrat, right? Or if I don't even know if he announced he was running it. December of 2023, maybe? Yeah, I don't know. I can't really compare. Who are the, if I want to find out who like the most popular Democrats are right now, I'm trying to think if this gives me a good understanding of the landscape or not. Because a lot of it will come down to name recognition and stuff. I don't know. Let's see. Who are most popular poll Democrats right now? Current most popular Democrats poll. What is this?
I don't say great, like it's the greatest con in history. By the way, it's the greatest con in history. I mean, truly. It's the greatest, and I don't say great in like a good way. It is truly the most successful con in history. It makes Enron look like a guy doing 3-card Monte on the street. Anything that you can remember and identify as a complete and utter scam, this is the greatest con in history. To run as an America first, and you're going to take care of America, and then turn around and go, you know, all of these things, daycare, Medicare, Medicaid, we have nothing to do with that. We're fighting wars. That's what we're here to do. We're here to have a defense budget of $1.5 trillion, and we're here to fight wars. It is the greatest scam in history. You got to hand it to him. And I mean, truly, and not in, you know, again, not in a moral way, but like you got to hand it to him. This is the greatest about face in political history.
Retards. Don't care. Okay. Do Democrat, March 6th. Okay, a month ago. Do Democrats want to be normal? Survey analysis of today's Democratic coalition. Moderates, 47% of the Democratic coalition, voters who describe themselves as a moderate Democrat, independent, or anti-Trump Republican. Moderates form the largest segment of the coalition with an average age of 53. They are somewhat more likely to be non-college graduates and are demographically diverse, 62% white, 70% black, 30% Hispanic, 55% Asian. More than half live in suburban communities, and they are the most electorally flexible faction in the coalition. Only 45% say they have never voted for a non-democratic presidential candidate. Progressive liberals, 37% of the Democratic coalition, voters who describe themselves as liberal Democrat or progressive Democrat. They're the whitest, 65% white, 11% Hispanic, 70% black, 5% Asian of the three groups, and are evenly split between those with college degrees and those without. A large majority describe themselves as ideologically left-leaning. This group is also disproportionately concentrated on the West Coast and in suburban areas. and the woke fringe. Voters who describe themselves as a democratic socialist or communist, 11%. The woke fringe stands apart demographically and attitudinally. It is the youngest faction with an average age of 43 and 7 in 10 members under the age of 50. It is the group with the fewest Hispanics but the largest proportion of Black and Asian voters, 60% are white. This group is more likely to live in urban areas, particularly in the Northeast. Ideologically, it is the most consistently left-leaning faction, with the majority identifying as very left-leaning. Members of this group are also significantly more likely than other Democrats to report poor mental health compared to the other groups. 25% for this group, 14% for moderate, 60% for progressive liberals. Let's see. Thinking about the direction of the Democratic Party after 2024, which statement comes closest to your view? Wait. When was this done? Between February 6th and 15th? Okay, a couple months ago. Thinking about the direction of the Democratic Party after 2024, which statement comes closest to your view? The Democratic Party needs to move further left to energize its base. That's 22% for all Dems/Harris voters. The Democratic Party is on the right spot ideologically is 26%. Not sure is 13%. And the Democratic Party needs to move towards the center to win over more voters. 38%. Damn. Okay. Hispanic, Black, white. Woke fringe. Say 58% of them say they need to move further to the left. Progressive liberals are at 24%. Moderates are at 12%. Under 50, 50 plus. Okay. Jesus. Among likely Democratic primary voters, the early 2028 field remains fluid. Kamala Harris holds a narrow plurality at 23%, followed closely by Gavin Newsom at 20%. Pete Buttigieg trails in third with 8%. I am surprised he's this far up there. Followed by AOC at 7%, Josh Shapiro at 5%, and Mark Kelly at 4%. What are our... Okay, there are severe ideological mismatches and any similarities are only true at the surface level and quickly diverge as soon as you dig into them. Examples. Recent polling from the Manhattan Institute shows a broad voter preference for remaining more moderate in our beliefs and democratic beliefs. Or even appealing more to, did this say to the right or towards the center? Okay, really more towards the center. Wait.
I mean, we...
Uh-oh. Hold on. We'll get to that. One sec. Okay. What would we say are the three... Can we name, like, three huge... Or what are some large... Hold on. This might be a waste of time, because maybe it's not as bad as I think, but we'll see. The three most popular... Democrats that voters would support in a 2028 Democratic presidential primary are Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, and Pete Buttigieg. How are these three individuals treated on far left media platforms? Do they seem to take a more constructive / friendly approach? Or do they instead appear as openly hostile? Let's check with... I'll do a few. Scanning YouTube video titles of the majority report. Do we include breaking points? Because I feel like that's supposed to be like a Republican and a Democrat, right? Is what they say. Who else would we say are like our big leftist socialist slop? Maybe Kyle Kalinske, maybe we could say, I guess we can check him. I don't even know where the Young Turks. Do we... I guess I'll do it. Yeah, fuck it. We'll do these. Okay. Okay. The majority report. Let's search videos. And let's search titles. And let's look for Harris. Search. No, fuck. Kamala Harris. I fucked up. 7 years ago. Fuck. Is there a way to do an advanced search in here? Can I put like a date thing? Like after 2023? Will that work? Oh my god. I think it might have. Jesus Christ. Kamala Harris on the majority report. We've got anti-war protesters interrupting Kamala Harris is great, actually. We've got Kamala Harris's book proves she was never prepared to be president. Okay. We've got Dem 2024 autopsy report. Kamala Harris lost votes because of support for the Gaza genocide. Support, she did. I remember hearing her say that. She said, fuck Palestinians. Tim Pool goes full sexist over Kamala Harris. Brett Weinstein cooks up idiotic Kamala Harris theory. Liberal justices send up warning flare to Kamala Harris. Harris campaign full of excuses for 2024 fail. It seems like the only time they defend her is when it's just against like more reprehensible people. So like against Tim Pool, against Brett Weinstein.
I think, we need to wait until we get really better data on who voted and why. Like how many people went from being...
Curious what they say about the sexist Tim Pool thing.
We talked about Hillary Clinton, right? And like how the public's mind was made up about her until 2016, and that was a big issue for her. This is a big issue for Trump. Everyone, people already know how they feel about him. I saw a poll, only 2% of the population is undecided on their opinion about him. So if Democrats can outperform Republicans, that's game over. And there's benefit to having newness and youth and all of those things.
Well, That may be the case, Emma, but have you considered that maybe Kamala Harris shouldn't be laughing so much? Let's tune into some very incisive political commentary from Tim Pool, who's just calling him as he sees him.
That the political consultants for Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton are telling them you cannot be the screechy strong woman because people don't respond well to that. You have to be the jovial laughing woman, which is terrible advice. But I hate to break it to you guys. I wonder if there is just naturally a predisposition humans have to react less positively to women rallying cries as opposed to men. I mean that. I give some examples.
We know.
All right. I said yesterday that the laughing is a misogynist dog whistle, right? Didn't I say that?
Whoopsie.
So I'm sorry to tell you guys, but I had a strategy going into that debate with him, and I was going to laugh at him if he acted ridiculous. When I did laugh at him, that's when he started screaming.
This is why you guys don't get invited places.
We're not having real conversations. That's when he got super red. There is something, first of all, like Hillary Clinton, yeah, that was part of the issue, bro. She can't, she was, I really have so many issues with her from like Iraq war support, Wall Street ties. I hated voting for Hillary Clinton. But the sexism issues were real. She couldn't laugh because it was inauthentic. But then when she would try to rally, oh, she's being screechy, she's being aggressive. He's describing the outcomes of sexism and why they need to be overcome. But he's basically saying, well, there's nothing you can do because either you're screechy or you're too giggly and we're going to criticize you anyway for it. Yeah, bro, that's the problem. It's because you have an issue with a woman being in a position of authority in front of your eyes.
What's always great about Tim Pool is he takes his perspective on things and then says it's actually the world. I want to remind Tim Pool that Hillary Clinton lost by 70,000 votes over the course of 3 states in terms of the Electoral College, but millions of more people voted for her than Donald Trump. In fact, Joe Biden won with less of a margin across in terms of the Electoral College, in terms of like votes that swung the other way in the Electoral College. So they're actual, like in terms of like them appealing to humans, it's you projecting onto the rest of us your misogyny. Go back and let's hear him explain again how, well, it's a mistake to tell her to laugh. And it's also a mistake to tell her to be screechy women because actually women just speak. People don't trust women. And by people, I mean, Tim Pool doesn't trust women. Because somehow we've had women leaders in other countries around the world many times over. It's just that religious fundamentalism in this country has carried the day and the patriarchy keeps people out. So instead of railing against that, Tim's just like, it's just a fact. I mean, if you want to be a high value guy, you got to realize that women can't rule the world.
Really is that I don't think it's a mental disorder. I think that the political consultants for Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton are telling them you cannot be the screechy strong woman because people don't respond well to that. You have to be the jovial laughing woman, which is terrible advice. But I hate to break it to you guys. I wonder if there is just naturally a predisposition humans have to react less positively to women rallying cries as opposed to men. I mean that. I'll give some examples. Or I'll give you my experience. So I did nonprofit fundraising, almost all of you know this, and there were 2 characteristics that served men and women, respectively, individually, very well. You weren't allowed to say this in the office. You were just supposed to try and give people the best understanding of how to fundraise through a sales pitch. So they give you these scripts that you read verbatim. Hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm with insert group. All right. Congratulations. It might be made.
Beneath the table, I mean, but
let's just like, just for the sake of just showing how much this guy actually thinks about his deep experiences, let's stipulate every single thing he has said. Or, the best fundraisers are just stipulate this just for the sake of argument. He doesn't ask himself, like his assumption is what phasing from. I mean, we rated not in those same hands. Everyone has the opportunity to vote. Not every, some people are sprake. So this is just assuming what he's saying is he's such a dimwit. He spends so little time thinking about his deep theories that he doesn't even realize he didn't know what he's talking about.
An example for when they do like their Maidenform ad where it's like you're either a Jackie or a Marilyn and they're like, should we get a woman's perspective on this? No. Women will buy it because they know they want to appear attractive because of their height. Has he done that forensic analysis of like say men with full heads of hair?
I was just going to say that. God, let's hear where he's going with this. Because he's forgotten now. I think he's forgotten what his original point was. He's just trying to tell stories about big-chested women that he's known.
And then AOC comes up somehow.
All guys, same thing. Men and women react differently to men and women, and I think that's an important point to be made. Again, not to be pressed, but what I'm saying is, if you get like AOC, when she went up on stage, pulled her hair down, and was like, oh, let's go Bronx, everyone made fun of her. Now, to be fair, it could kind of be like a Howard Dean, Yahoo moment or whatever that was he said, yeehaw.
Short man without boobs.
Maybe. But I also think that when you get Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris, and they're trying to do this gruff, you vote for me again, it's raspy, squeaky, and I wonder if people have a natural predisposition against something like that. Not to say that's a 100%, no, it could be like 1 or 2 points that you might lose. Whereas with a guy standing up and saying, I'm telling you now, I will make sure China pays, people are going to be like, oh, that's a strong guy with a deep voice. And with Hillary Clinton, she sounds like this, and Kamala Harris, I'm going to do this. It's like, I think there are really, it's probably people who don't pay attention to politics, and they have emotional reaction and expectations, and these things are ingrained in us. Dare I say, I would describe this as
Hillary
inherent
Clinton got 3 million more votes
Inherent
than Donald Trump. You idiot.
Yeah.
Your entire
Inherent
theory
sexism.
is based upon your own imagination.
And he's naturalizing he's just naturalizing hierarchies, which is exactly what right-wingers do. He's naturalizing things that we have evolved from as a society. We are still in growing pains. Yes, there is still sexism. Yes, there will be voters that will hear Kamala Harris and whether they understand it or not, will not vote for her because she doesn't appeal to them because she's a woman. But Tim is not saying there's anything wrong with that or that it's something that we should critically examine and that we have a capacity to change because we know that we do. Women have suffrage. Women have rights. Women have credit cards now. We've evolved. He's naturalizing those hierarchies.
And he's also doing it based upon a faulty perception of how other people are because Hillary Clinton got 3 million more votes than Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That's just a fact. His
With all her
entire theory
issues.
is based upon her getting less votes, and she got more votes. It's not. His theory's not in societies with electoral colleges, people respond to women differently in specific states that they don't campaign in. He's making some universal decree based upon numbers that he doesn't even seem to be aware of.
Ahead of Claudia Sheinbaum getting elected president in Mexico, there was all the same sorts of things being like, what's going to happen because Mexico very macho, the macho
Machismo.
man, machismo, and it's all idle, speculation.
We've had in Germany, in England, Italy.
I don't see if they say a single positive thing about her in this video.
Fortunately, not recently in France, Argentina, and Mexico. I mean, Israel. I mean, Somehow, all of these places must be outside of society, including the United States, incidentally, where, again, 3 or 4 million people more voted for Hillary Clinton than Donald Trump.
I remember in Joe Crowley when AOC was challenging him saying, I can't help that I'm white. So very quickly, once they realized that it's an advantage, actually might be a liability to just be what Tim Pool seems as the standard tough guy talking like this.
He's very tough. I can't wait for this to age. Like, the most analogous situation is Jacinda Ardern, right, who took over late in New Zealand to get elected to be president, and she had a pretty good progressive presidency, did well under COVID. So if that's the case, I'll take that example.
Hey, so we all remember the Supreme Court's ruling on Trump's presidential immunity case. Well, get this. The leader of the Heritage Foundation think tank has said the second American...
No? Okay. Okay. What do we have for Kyle Kulinski? Breaking points and the Young Turks. More Cedar. I don't need every single fucking video.
In 20...
The big interview happened.
Actually, fuck, I'll include this one. Okay. August 30th, 2024. Okay. What are, if I go to Kyle Kulinski, secular talk, search, Kamala Harris, after 2023. Ta-Nehisi Coates delivers dire warning to Kamala Harris. Kamala says the quiet part loud in shocking admission. Rogan reveals how Kamala interview fell apart. Burn your MAGA hat. Nick Fuentes says Kamala's better than Trump. Well, that's a nice one. The View hosts go quiet as Kamala stuns them.
So as I said, with Kamala doing more interviews now, there's a lot more stuff to pick apart. A lot of this stuff, look, to be fair, is very good. The stuff that she said on The View about expanding Medicare to include home care, that's a big deal, man. Like, that truly is a big deal. But that was the good part. Now we're going to discuss the bad part. So this is the moment that everybody's talking about with this interview on The View. Honestly, this is a good question from the women at The View. This is a very solid question. This is a question that, like, if I was ever interviewing Kamala, this is a question I would ask, right?
It's not going to be Israel-Palestine, right?
They basically say, hey, where do you disagree with Biden? What would you have done differently than Biden?
Oh.
And that should be, look, it should be a softball down the center of the plate. I get that you're still the VP, and so you don't want to, like, offend Biden, but at the same time, like, you are a different person. He was switched out for you. This is an opportunity for you to define yourself as, no, seriously, I am different. People want you to be different. They don't want you to be Joe Biden. If they want you to be Joe Biden would still be the top of the ticket. He's not, right? Here's your answer. Ready?
If anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There's not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Like, literally all you have to do is say, well, you know, we have to take a minimum wage increase out of Build Back Better. I wouldn't have done that. I would have made sure that we kept that in the final package, and I would have called Manchin and Sinema into my office and made sure that they voted for it. I would have done everything I could in my power to get it.
Oh, just tell them to vote for... Oh, shrimple ass! Shrimple ass!
To that point, right? Hey, we Build Back Better, we ended up going with a bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, that was about 20% of the stuff that was in Build Back Better. I would make sure it was at least 60%, right? Something, freaking anything. Give me anything. Biden is a union guy, but he's more connected on, like, the construction side of union workers. Kamala has union connections from California, but hers are more, like, care economy based. So go with something about unions when it comes to the care economy. Like, anything, bro. I would have, hey, we used executive power to reduce some student loan debt. I would have used executive power to also reduce medical debt, right? Something, anything, bro. Literally, there's so many things you can say. And she said none of those things. But guys, it gets worse. So later on, she comes back to this question. Listen to what she says.
It's bipartisan. Listen, I plan on having a Republican in my cabinet. You asked me what's the difference between Joe Biden and me. Well, that will be one of the differences. I'm going to have a Republican in my cabinet because I don't feel burdened by letting pride get in the way of a good idea. Right?
So now, by the way, Joe Biden does have Republicans in his cabinet. I believe he has about 3 Republicans in his cabinet. One of them that comes to mind is DeJoy. And the Republicans have done a horrible job, by the way. The Republicans he has with what's his face? Jerome Powell, right? He's a Republican. There's a whole bunch that are in his administration, and they've done a bad job. So let's get that out of the way.
Wasn't Powell put there before Biden, though? Don't they serve longer terms? Is it 10 years or something? I thought Powell was put there by Trump.
Right? But, like, again, this all goes back to what we were just talking about. Kamala and her staffers feel, and they worry that you're a black woman, so people are going to code you as left-wing. So you need to make sure to let them know, I'm moderate, I'm centrist, I'm moderate, I'm centrist. But their way of doing that is to have her say shit like this. There's nothing that's different between me and Joe Biden. Actually, there is, because I will be more right-wing.
They reappointed him? Oh, okay.
I'll have a Republican in my administration. Presumably she means, like, closer to her in her cabinet, right? And that's not the way to do it. That's not the way to do it. You need to find a way.
Which is tradition? Oh, I don't know what the tradition is. I don't know if the Federal Reserve Chair is usually considered a cabinet person either, right? They don't go to, like, cabinet meetings and shit, do they?
Look, I get it. You're trying to get moderate votes and slightly...
No, we haven't seen Powell at any of Trump's cabinet meetings, right?
conservative votes and disaffected Republicans. I get it. There's a good way of doing that. There's a bad way of doing that. A bad way of doing that is saying, thank you for your service, Dick Cheney, Mr. Torture War Criminal. I'm proud to have your endorsement. That's a bad way of doing that. A good way of doing it is just saying, yeah, I'm a moderate. I'm a centrist, and that's why I'm going to eliminate medical debt, and that's why I'm going to raise the minimum wage. Yeah, I'm a centrist. That's why I'm going to expand Medicare to include home care. I'm going to do centrist stuff like that. I'm a centrist. I'm going to do $6,000 child tax credit. I'm going to ban price gouging. I'm going to lower more prescription drug costs. I'm a centrist. Look at polls. Majority of Americans with me on those things. That's right smack dab in the center of the country. I am a centrist. I'm a moderate. These are the things I believe. That's how you do it. And by the way, we all know what she means. She means like Liz Cheney's going to be in the administration. Well, look, if Liz Cheney's going to be in the administration, the only thing she should or could ever work on is another, January 6th committee to take down Trump for more of his election stealing crimes. Because that's the only area where she's good. Everything else is bad. She was celebrating Roe versus Wade being overturned. Remember that? She voted over 90% of the time with Donald Trump. This is just Donald Trump in a pantsuit. Like, that's what she is. The only difference is she's against stealing the election. Wow, like lowest bar in history. I genuinely want to downplay that. Like, thank you for taking that position. That's good. That's the only...
Fuck. I would have to go check conservative media to compare, but like, I'm just so curious. Somebody pointed out that Kyle tweeted this because he wasn't a fence sitter for this election.
All right, guys.
But even like Kyle's definitive case against Trump, like not for Kamala, am I being nitpicky here? Like, Jesus. I don't know. I wonder what he said in this video. Let me use the restroom. Hold on.
Welcome to the show. We have an election tomorrow, and I am super excited for today's show. It's probably the most important show that I've done in a very, very long time. So in just a second, I'm going to make the definitive case against Donald Trump. Just lay out nothing but straight facts. And I hope you guys share the segment with your friends, with your family, with people who agree with you, with people who disagree with you, with people who are fence-sitting. Because again, I'm going to try my best to make an ironclad case and change people's minds. So we'll do that up front. Then after that, I will be revealing my election prediction. Do not miss that segment. I will tell you how I think the election is going to go. Then after that, I'll describe to you exactly what you have to look out for on election day. This is also going to be a super important point because there are things that are almost certainly going to happen, and nobody's talking.
He was already calling her Hillary 2.0 in 2021. He never fucked with Kamala. I'm trying to focus on things closer to the election or around the election time. Because your mind can change, right?
Think about them. And so you need to mentally prepare. And I'm going to lay out for you exactly how it's going to go. And then after that, guys, this is a huge story. It's crazy. It's not getting more play. They haven't talked about it on mainstream media. But the Daily Beast had a bombshell article a few days ago. It is a brand new, insane Trump Epstein story that you have to see to believe. All right, so we got all that and much, much more, including Trump's closing ad versus Kamala's closing ad. So let's go ahead and get it started. The point of this segment here is to make the definitive case against Trump. And I hope, again, share with people share with people you like, share with people you don't like, share with people you disagree with and agree with. We're really trying to do our best to change minds here. And I'm going to do it by...
What? Right? Never mind. Okay. I hear something. Okay. Wait. This fucking game. Never mind. Okay. Show transcript. What? It's not right. It must be, this can't possibly be, no. He must say Harris or something. There's no way there's only one mention of Kamala in this entire video. It's gotta be, that's not possible. No shot.
I'm just trying to spit straight facts. So I'm going to start this segment off a little weird. Just to prove to everybody who might not know about me in the show, I am not what you might call a partisan hack, okay? I will give credit where credit is due if I think it's merited. I don't really care about what political party you're in or what your ideology is. If you do something that I think is objectively good, I will say, you know what, credit to you. So first let me start with just a couple things where I actually agreed with Trump when he was president. I like the First Step Act. That was criminal justice reform. He very famously got that through. Again, if it was a Democrat who did it, I'd be giving the Democrat credit. It was Trump and the Republicans who were able to do it. Excuse me, it was Trump. I think it was a lot of Democrats that ended up getting it done. That was wonderful. Pardoning Alice Johnson. Remember that story? The sweet old grandmotherly lady who was caught up in some drug crime and she was spending life in prison, but she definitely didn't deserve it. And Kim Kardashian went to the White House to try to convince Trump to pardon her, and he did. Credit to her. Excuse me, credit to him. I guess also credit to her. He did not do. He ran in 2016 and said, we're not going to do the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, because it's another massive outsourcing deal that will hurt American jobs. And to his credit, he got in there and he killed the TPP. Now that one he only gets half credit because he also took a lot of the provisions of the TPP and slipped it back into his new NAFTA bill. So it's only partial credit because some of those things became law anyway, but nonetheless, still very happy he axed TPP. The other thing is he banned bump stocks. Remember that? This is something many right-wingers and Second Amendment supporters did not like. This is something I thought was very reasonable, very common sense. It was after one of the massive mass shootings, and he said, you know, these bump stock things are unnecessary, and he banned them. And then finally, this is probably my most controversial give Trump credit line, is I actually liked it when he stopped doing the chest thumping and beating the war drums when he came to North Korea, and he literally met Kim Jong-un and shook his hand, and they had a meeting. Because from my perspective, if they're talking, that makes it much less likely that we end up going to war with them. So admittedly, that's my most controversial take, but I did not mind the Kim Jong-un North Korea meeting in the slightest. In fact, it was a Democratic president that was doing it. I'd be saying the same thing. Hey, I'm glad that we are further away from war with North Korea. I'd rather be in that position than Trump doing those very threatening tweets about Little Rocket Man. That was when I was massively against his North Korea approach. Okay, so there you go. There's some areas where I give Trump credit. Now buckle up, because those are the good things. The bad things, the list is way, way, way more comprehensive, way longer, right? And understand, it's not my fault. This is the stuff he did, right? So let's start with this. Very few people know this. Trump, when he was president, gutted internet privacy rights. So the industry wanted him to do that. The Republicans...
Wait, is there another video right before this? Kyle's definitive case for Kamala, maybe? Is there like a video before this? Could somebody look at that?
Voted for the bill to pass. Trump signed the bill. Guys, do you know how much support that bill had in the country? You ready for this? I literally think this is a world record for signing legislation that is this unpopular. That bill had 6% support in the country, and Trump signed it. See, this is what I mean when I say the media doesn't do a good job. The media should bring stuff up like this all the time. This is how Trump governed as president. People need to know this. They need to know that he gutted your internet privacy rights and signed a bill with 6% support in the country. All right, so that's one thing. Then also we have Trump very famously tried to repeal the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. He failed because of John McCain at the last minute swooping in to save the day. But a lot of people don't remember there was a two-pronged approach. Number one, repeal Obamacare. But the second thing is they proposed a bill, I believe it was called the American Health Care Act, which is what the media dubbed Trump Care. So he wanted to get rid of Obamacare and bring in Trump Care. Okay, well, what is Trump Care? Well, just to give you a little taste of it, Trump was going around the country saying, you don't need to worry, we're going to protect your pre-existing conditions. If you have pre-existing conditions, fear not. We're going to fight for you. We're going to protect you. As he was saying that around the country, guess what? The text of the bill itself got rid of protections for pre-existing conditions. It made it so that state by state they either opt in or opt out. And what would have happened is all of the red states would have opted out of protecting people with pre-existing conditions. So the health care bill that Trump tried to pass, Trump Care. Again, would you like to take a guess how popular this bill was? There was a Kaiser Family Foundation poll. Only 8% of the country wanted it passed. And this is what he tried to get passed. Guys, this is what a second Trump term would be like. Trying to shove through more legislation with 6% support or 8% support. And my point to you guys is, if you're MAGA, if you're in MAGA, do you seriously want no protections for your pre-existing conditions?
This is the tweet that Kyle says he, quote, very openly supported her, end quote. This is the example that he gave.
Because this is the kind of stuff he's going to deliver for you. Do you seriously want even fewer online privacy rights? Because this is what he's going to do. He virtue signals when he's in front of the crowd. He tries to pretend like, I'm going to do the things you want. But then this is the actual legislation he tries to get through. Next one of the more important ones. Trump did a massive tax cut for the rich and corporations. That bill that he brags about all the time, if you read the details, 83% of the benefits of that tax cut bill go to the top 1%. Every tax cut for working people has a sunset provision on it, and it's gone away. And the tax cuts for the wealthy and corporations are permanent. This is what he does. He represents billionaires and big business and moneyed interests. He does not represent regular working people. Despite what he says on the campaign trail, again, you have to read the specifics and the details to know what's actually going on. Another example of that, he picks a predatory payday lender to be the head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. For those of you who don't know, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is one of the best government agencies we have. They've returned over $12 billion to Americans who were defrauded by big banks and credit card companies, etc. It came about under the Obama administration. Well, Trump again appointed a predatory payday lender to be the head of it to destroy the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And of course, so as he gets out of office, the Democrats have tried to build it up again to make it represent the people again. This is one nobody talks about. He very famously deregulated deli meat, and then we had a listeria outbreak. It just happened. It ended up killing 9 people and hospitalizing 57. And it's as a direct result of him deregulating deli meat. Trump ran as the anti-outsourcing guy. Well, guess what? Under him, we lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs. Trump picked the 3 new Supreme Court justices, and guess what? They're the ones who overturned Roe versus Wade, and of course that's having horrendous consequences all across the country, because now you have, 12 or more states with full abortion bans, many other conservative states with very restrictive abortion bans, but they're not full abortion bans, and this is wreaking havoc on women's health. Then he also very famously did not try to get the minimum wage increased, even though he pretended he was a populist. He's going to represent working people. He didn't lift a finger to try to get the minimum wage increased. Beyond that, he presided over a net loss of 2.9 million jobs. Now look, you could say, yeah, but that's largely due to COVID or whatever. It's fair to bring up COVID in the context of that conversation. But when you're president, you also don't get a mulligan, okay? He lost 2.9 million jobs. He also made $160 million from foreign countries while he was president. This is a clear violation of the Emoluments Clause of the Constitution. And the concern is, if you're taking that much money from foreign governments and from foreign wealthy people, who are you really beholden to? Are you making policy for the American people, or are you making policy for them? He did a lot of self-dealing. So, for example, he billed the Secret Service $1 million and had the Secret Service stay at one of his hotels. This sort of self-dealing, if any other politician was doing it, it'd be a giant story and there'd be massive scrutiny. But with Trump, it's like number 7 on the list of scandals for the day, so people barely even know about it. There was, a massive outcry at the time when there was the child separation policy going on at the border. In fact, 5,000 kids were separated from their parents at the border. He, of course, tried to do the thing he said on the campaign trail, which is the Muslim ban, and it had to go through the court system, and he had to rework the Muslim ban in a number of different ways and basically make it not a Muslim ban while trying to kind of still have it a Muslim ban. Some wild stuff, man. That's some wild stuff. He was impeached in the House over the Zelensky phone call. If you guys remember that, was he was trying to get Ukraine to open up an investigation into the Bidens when he was running against Joe Biden. He was also impeached for incitement to insurrection in the House. And here's the fact that many people don't know. So, yeah, the impeachment got through the House, right? I think both times got through the House. But for the second impeachment, the incitement to insurrection, get this, 57 senators voted to impeach him and literally remove him from office. Now, obviously, with impeachment, you need more than 57, but the overwhelming majority of senators said, yeah, he tried to incite insurrection with January 6th, and he needs to get out of here. So that means 7 Republicans agreed with the Democrats and said, yeah, he tried to incite an insurrection. By the way, more on that sort of stuff later. Trump also appointed more billionaires and Wall Street CEOs in his administration than any president in history. That's very ironic, again, because this is a guy who pretends like he's anti-establishment and he's against the elites, and then here he is doing the most pro-establishment, pro-elite thing anybody can do. He also acted like getting an infrastructure bill was a big thing for him, and he was going to get it done. Well, guess what? He did not get an infrastructure bill through. All we got is some virtue signaling like infrastructure weeks. He filled the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, with union busters, made it very, very hard to form a union, so working people were held back from getting higher wages and better healthcare and better benefits. Trump's Labor Department very famously stiffed 8 million workers of overtime pay because this is the conservative Republican ideology. They don't believe in things like overtime pay. They don't believe in things like paid family leave and paid vacation time, and that's how he governed. His Labor Department stiffed 8 million workers of overtime. He very famously tried to terminate DACA, so protections for the dreamers, but the courts blocked him. He pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement and called climate change a hoax. He rolled back 112 environmental protections. Guys, one of Trump's lines he always goes back to is, we want beautiful clean air and beautiful clean water. You've heard him say this a million times on the campaign trail and at rallies and in interviews. Well, guess what? He rolled back 112 environmental protections, including deregulating chemicals and water and air. So he's just, I don't know how else to get it through. The guy genuinely is just a liar. Here's another lie. He always says, I'm going to protect your Social Security, I'm going to protect your Medicare. Trump's proposed budgets his entire time in office included cuts to Social Security and Medicare. Here's another amazing fact that it boggles my mind that more people don't know this. Well, I'm going to tell you and you guys can spread the word. Under Trump, 3 million people lost health insurance. Under Obamacare, under the Affordable Care Act, Democrats gave 50 million more people health insurance. Under Trump, 3 million people lost their health insurance. And by the way, we had a pandemic under him too. Like the last thing you would want to happen. Now, again, just so everybody understands and to be clear, I support a single-payer Medicare for all system. I want everybody to be covered. I want universal health care like the rest of the developed world. And we don't have that, and we didn't get that. But there is a stark difference between Democrats and Republicans. Democrats, 50 million more people health care. Trump and Republicans, 3 million people lost their health insurance under his reign. Here's another story that, for the life of me, I don't understand why it's not still talked about today. I believe it was the Washington Post. They did an analysis, the number of lies Trump told when he was president. You ready for this? They say there were 30,573 lies when he was president. 30,573 lies. That would be an average of 21 lies per day. Now look, let's be fair, guys. Let's be fair, because I'm sure that the Washington Post considered certain things lies that were more in a gray area and they weren't necessarily lies. And maybe some of those things the Washington Post was just flat out wrong. Okay, let's just cut the number in half. He told 15,000 lies. 15,000 lies when he was president, and that would still be about 10 lies per day. It begins to look kind of absurd to just swat all this stuff aside and say, nah, I like him. I like the guy. More. Trump delayed $20 billion in aid to Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria and left them without power for 181 days. And by the way, I think this is one of the main reasons why that Puerto Rico comment from Tony Hinchcliffe at the Trump rally, why it really has landed and broken through, and apparently the polls are showing it's actually having a massive impact. I think this is probably one of the reasons why. Because, Tony Hinchcliffe called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage, and people were reminded, hey, when Trump was in there and Hurricane Maria hit, he was horrible in responding to it. So that could be a big deal. It could be a big deal. Under Trump, he presided over the biggest single-year increase in homicides in the year 2020. So in other words, the worst crime numbers went up. Now, again, to be fair, COVID is certainly a part of that, but as I pointed out previously, you don't just get a mulligan because something bad happened under your watch. Obama very famously had to deal with the subprime mortgage crisis and the Great Recession. And still, some of the very specific numbers vis-a-vis that crisis were better after Obama got in there. Okay, more. Get this, guys. There were 1,700 mass shootings under Trump. 3,000 Americans were dying of COVID per day. And he very famously threw out Obama's pandemic playbook, and he disbanded the National Security Council's pandemic response team. That is unconscionable, right? Oh, and by the way, I will give credit for Operation Warp Speed. I forgot to mention that before, but we also can't overlook this. 3,000 Americans dying of COVID per day threw out Obama's pandemic playbook and disbanded the National Security Council's pandemic response team. And then, of course, these are probably the biggest ones. I don't know why I'm burying the lead. He tried to overthrow the election. He had the fake elector slates. We had January 6th. They tried to block the certification. He tried to twist Mike Pence's arm to say, reject the results and keep me in power. That's a huge one. And he was facing 91 criminal charges. Some of them he's already been convicted on, and now I think, by the way, that number's down to 86 criminal charges because of the Supreme Court immunity ruling. Some of the charges had to be reworked or dropped. But 86 criminal charges he's facing right now. If that was the case about any Democrat, they wouldn't be at 46 or 47% of the polls. They'd be at 7% of the polls, right? But with Trump, he largely gets away with it. But I'll just get started, guys. So I was just giving you a lot of the domestic policy stuff and economic policy stuff for Trump. Let's talk about his foreign policy. So one of the biggest scams in Afghanistan, there was a 330% increase in civilian deaths in Afghanistan under Trump. He bombed Syria twice. He bombed Somalia. He very openly said, we're going to occupy a third of Syria to, quote, take the oil. This is something he also famously said about the Iraq War, too. We would go to CPAC and give these speeches before he was president and say, we really should take the oil. We should take the oil. To the victor go the spoils, right? To the victor go the spoils. He increased the Pentagon budget every single year he was in office. He let Israel illegally annex the Golan Heights, which is Syrian territory. Pro quo is, I'll give you this $100 million. You need to officially let Israel annex the entire West Bank. And he's already taken that money, and he's planning on doing exactly that. Under Trump, he assassinated the top Iranian commander, Saudi Arabia, as they did a genocide in Yemen, and then vetoed a bipartisan bill which tried to cut off our weapons to them. I believe it was Bernie Sanders and Mike Lee in the Senate worked on that. And the whole idea was, hey, we see that we're arming and funding a genocide here that Saudi Arabia is doing in Yemen. We got to stop this. Trump vetoed it. He vetoed it. And oh, would you look at that? Now Trump has deep business ties with Saudi Arabia. They gave Jared Kushner $2 billion. He's also taken at least tens of millions of dollars from Saudi Arabia for the live golf events that he has at his golf courses. Trump has openly said he wants war with Mexico in his second term. He wants to categorize the drug cartel war criminals who did the Nice killing all of their policies. He said a number of times he wants to punish flag burning with a year in jail. Which, let's be clear, this has already been adjudicated. So say things about Trump that he doesn't like, and he will sue major media organizations. He apparently he's about, or he already did. I think he's trying to sue CBS for $10 billion with a B over some Kamala interview that they did. This is who this guy is. The idea that he's pro-free speech is the most insane. Telling the truth on Edward Snowden or Daniel Hale. These are people who are First Amendment heroes, did not pardon them. He said he wants to invoke the Insurrection Act to deploy U.S. troops against George Floyd protesters and asked if, can we shoot him in the leg? Let's just shoot him in the leg. Remember that? That absolute nightmare? And it was the generals who stepped in and said, sir, we don't do this. This is unconstitutional. We're not going to deploy the U.S. military against our own people. And then finally, and probably the most important one, it wasn't that long ago Trump openly called to terminate, quote, all rules, regulations, and articles in the Constitution because he lost the election. And he basically wanted to invoke martial law and get his ass back in power. So this is who this guy is. Now, beyond just Trump, and I just gave you roughly, Jesus, I don't know, 100 reasons to not support him, there's a broader problem with the party, with the Republican Party. They have lost their goddamn minds. They are extremists now. They are far right now. They are not connected to reality. So, for example, Trump goes around calling himself the father of IVF. We love IVF in the Republican Party. We protect IVF. Well, then why did 48 Republicans vote against the Right to IVF Act in the Senate? They've lost their minds. They're now floating in many red states, and many Republican politicians at the national level, they're openly talking about getting rid of no-fault divorce. It was only a year or two ago that we had a vote in the House and the Senate on gay marriage, because when Roe v. Wade was overturned, Democrats were like, shit, they might overturn gay marriage next. Let's have a vote on this in the House and the Senate to try to get a bill passed that will protect gay marriage, even if the Supreme Court overturns gay marriage. Well, guess what? 36 Republican senators voted against protecting gay marriage, and 169 of them in the House voted against protecting gay marriage. This is genuine extremism. This is an issue that should have been settled in like the year 2000, but really maybe was settled, you could say, by 2013-ish. But now they're saying, no, let's roll back the clock a decade. We're against equality under the law. 44 Republicans in the Senate voted against extending the child tax credit. This is as the Republican VP candidate, J.D. Vance, goes around pretending like he's in favor of it. Guess what? He skipped that vote. He didn't go. So they're lying. This party has a massive problem with lies.
Wow.
51% of Republican candidates in the 2022 election, in the midterms, which they did horrible in, by the way, they were election deniers. They were election deniers.
Not good.
So in other words, this party has a massive, massive problem with reality. And
True.
they've lost their goddamn minds. And it's like, there needs to be punishment for that. They need to know it is unacceptable for you guys to sprint further and further right. So the other thing to keep in mind when it comes to Trump and the Republicans is Project 2025, right? Trump has tried to distance himself from it. It's nonsense. He bragged about how the Heritage Foundation staffed his last administration. He spoke to them relatively recently and said, you guys are going to help lay the ideological framework for our next administration. You know, you have J.D. Vance wrote the forward for the book of the dude who wrote Project 2025. He was like the head of the project, and J.D. Vance wrote a forward for that dude's book. I mean, the connections are endless. He's had dozens of staffers already in his administration from the Heritage Foundation. Understand, when you vote for a candidate, you're not just voting for a candidate, you're also voting for a massive bureaucracy that goes hand in hand with them. And massive bureaucracy on the right, it's the right-wing think tanks. And Project 2025 is their wish list of everything that they want. And this is a party, and this is an agenda that includes banning states from doing free school breakfast and lunch for kids. This is something some of the blue states have been doing. They want to ban it. They want to ban states and cities from doing minimum wage increases. In fact, in some red states, at the state level, they've already banned it for the city level. So if you are, a city in a red state and you want to raise minimum wage in your city, they go, nope, you're not allowed to do that. In Texas, for example, they've banned extreme heat work breaks. So you might, I didn't talk nearly enough in this piece about January 6th, but more importantly than January 6th, the fake elector slates, where Trump and the Republicans flat out tried to steal the last election, right? There's no other way to say it. So oftentimes what you hear from Republicans is, wait, hold on now. They weren't fake elector slates. They were alternate elector slates. And they were just doing what had been done many times in the past. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a myth. That, ladies and gentlemen, is 100% not true. And the reason why it's not true is because in the past, when alternate slates of electors were used, it was when there was a genuine question as to who won a given state. And they said, okay, well, here are the two different slates of electors. Here's the person that's in the lead. Joe Biden won these various states. And fake electors and fraudulent electors. So don't take my word for it. Take their word for it. And the other thing you hear is, well, look, if Trump actually believed that he won the election, then maybe some of this stuff is kind of justified. But the thing is, he didn't even believe that he won the election. And, the list goes on and on. There was a story that came out, there was something that was floating around Twitter the other day where Trump was watching TV and said to somebody in the room, like, I can't believe I lost to this guy when Biden was up there talking. There are a number of instances of him acknowledging and admitting, yeah, look at Aileen Cannon, who's thrown out cases where Trump is clearly guilty, like the documents case. So, guys, a guy like this can be nowhere near power, right? He could just be nowhere near power. And he's proven that time and time again. He's authoritarian to the core. And now he destroys the entire regulatory state. Who's going to tell him no? That's literally part and parcel of the ideological project of the right. That's what it is. And so, I originally was going to go through all of, like, here are the things I disagree with Biden and Kamala on, but here are the things I think that they did that they don't get enough credit for, and sort of wrap this segment up by giving an analysis of both sides. But honestly, we've already gone so freaking long that I don't think that's the best way to wrap this segment up. So let's leave it at that. Look, regardless of what you agree with me on or disagree with me on, you cannot deny a lot of the things in this segment that we've gone through. It's just a factual retelling of policies the Trump administration did or policies they say they want to do. Right? And any honest analysis would deal with that on its own terms. You can't deflect. You can't obfuscate. You can't pretend you didn't hear the things that you did hear. Right? And I don't know. Hopefully we can change some people's minds. I won't hold my breath because of how divided our politics has become. But this is a person and a party that in no sane world would come even close to the White House after all that's happened. And we'll see whether or not that comes to fruition. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
Okay. Jesus. All right. We'll find more videos in a second. I'm curious what they said about their comment section.
We could do round 2 on Hassan if you wanted to. I mean, I actually, can I just say, can we do just like 2 seconds on discourse on discourse?
Yeah. People love discourse on discourse on discourse. I was, just really quick, what you think about your 2 seconds on discourse on discourse. I was last night, I've never felt more 2026 content creator than last night because I was, my friends were over and someone had texted them and said, hey, Hassan's talking about our thing. And so they put it on the TV at my house. And so I was watching Hassan watch me and you and talk about it. And I was feeling very metaverse. not having that experience.
Let me guess. I was unpopular.
You were unpopular on his stream. You were unpopular on his stream.
stream.
I will say. You were not that popular on his stream.
Yeah, I would say like there's people on Twitter who were like, man, the comments on the video that we did, like this is a, I can't believe these are bulwark commenters. And I'm a little bit like, guys, Hassan was streaming it and like people were coming over to our video to comment. Yeah. It's also, I would say, for a video that you and I do, a pretty low engagement video.
Right.
Actually,
yeah. No, there are actually way more comments on a lot of the other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very high engagement on on Twitter and other places. Yeah.
Well, like it's a high engagement on the people who are commenting, but low in terms of people who want to engage with the content, and which means it's like terminally online people are invested in this debate much more than like average Americans, which led me to just think this is the kind of my 2 seconds on. I'm not sure if we failed to do this or if it's just we did it over the course of an hour and so people don't see the distilled version of it, which is I think there's two debates happening.
I didn't know
there's
the boss
a question that has been raised
of
do Democrats embrace Hassan Piker, the guy, the man, which I'm a no on as like him because I don't think that we should either embrace or wave away some of the really sort of toxic, illiberal things that he has said. That being said,
wait, real quick. If I have magic missiles as my basic attack, will the splash damage thing also impact that? So my magic missiles will all do splash damage?
The voters who are attracted to what Hassan is saying, the reality of the fact that support for Israel among Democrats and independents has fallen off a cliff. It is at historical lows. That's a different conversation. One of the comments from people it is funny. One of the meta discourse things is people were like, you don't engage with his content. And so how can you talk about him? You don't understand anything about Democratic voters. And I was a little bit like, yeah, that also applies to me. Like if you listen to me, you would know, actually, I know quite a lot about the voters and I'm perfectly willing, not just willing, it's all over my book, is talking about how much this issue is changing, how animating it is for Democratic voters. And that when it comes to building a big, broad coalition, people who are concerned about our relationship with Israel, like that's a big number. That's not a marginal number, right? And so I think my point is and remains that you absolutely have to engage those voters, but Democrats should do it not by being like, I've got to put my arm around Hassan Piker to do it, but by saying, I have my own opinions on how America's relationship with Israel is being handled, and here it is. Like that is what I think Democrats should do. And there's a lot of like, why are these former Republicans talking about Democratic stuff? And can I just say on this point, always, we're just Americans with opinions, like everybody else.
Also,
right?
I've voted for more of the last three Democratic presidential nominees than Hassan has. So
that's right.
To that
We've
point,
certainly done quite a bit more to elect Democrats.
I'm 3 for
over
3
here.
on the last three. I'm with you on that. I guess my one little distinction from that comment is I wasn't really out there arguing for embrace. What I was opposing to is attack. And there's space between attack and embrace.
Oh,
and I think if people want to, there's a level of attack, and that's fine. Other streamers, or I do it. But my thing is like Democratic politicians right now just have this huge gap with these voters, and like they need to show them and demonstrate that they care and they're mad about this war and they're mad about the way that our relationship with Israel is part of this war. But it's not just Israel, but also UAE and MBS, and we don't want this. The Americans don't want to be in these wars in the Middle East. They don't want to pay more for gas, and this is a stupid war, and it's managed horribly, and we're doing it in lockstep with Israel. And
it's the opposite of what Trump promised. It's getting away from us. It's deeply scary.
Yeah.
And like
they should be yelling about that. I think there are a lot of Democrats that just would say that, like, if you asked a voter in your focus group, like, what does your congressman, your generic Democratic congressman, think about this war? I think a lot of voters would be like, I don't know. The Democrats are opposed to it, but like they haven't. They seem to be kind of playing both sides a little bit. Whether that's fair or not, I think that's the impression of the party right now. And I just think that the party has a lot of work to do to gain credibility with those voters, to be clear-eyed on this. And I think like attacking prominent anti-war people hurts you in the effort to do that. And that was really anyway, that's my one distinction from what you're saying.
Yeah, and I'll just, I would say one distinction for me too is that like there's what Sarah Longwell thinks herself, and Sarah Longwell herself doesn't want to rock with Hassan. Okay? Sure. That's true. That is real true. There's also Sarah Longwell, the analyst who listens to voters, who is acutely aware of if Democrats are going to build a big, broad coalition, right, they've got to figure out how to say what they believe about these things. Like when they create a vacuum, and I did talk about this yesterday, people didn't engage with it too much. It's like, I always say this, if Democrats or Republicans actually won't take a strong position on, let's say, immigration, the authoritarians will. And it's going to be way worse. And so, like, if Democrats won't engage in a way that I think is they believe, like, what bothers me is that I think most Democrats are ripshit about this war, do think it's been handled, but they're not talking about it that much, like, or like, not in a cacophony. And so if you don't do that, then, like, people will outsource it to the Hassan bikers of the world. And so the demand, I think, like, the demands are getting confused in this conversation, where the demand shouldn't be whether Democrats do or do not embrace Hassan Piker. The question should be, are Democrats speaking out forcefully in opposition to this war? Are they saying that they themselves will change some of the way that our relationships operate with some of these actors internationally, where, like, we now have a thing where, like, we're doing, like, we're opposed to our NATO allies, but we're going to do whatever we want, you know, with what that MBS wants us to do, or what Bibi wants us to do that are more in their interest than ours. Like, those are legitimate things to talk about and work through. And so that to me was the bigger thing.
All right. I don't know. I thought we were arguing about something else, like brunch or something, but that's okay. We could do more of that. We'll keep coming back to that discourse to the extent people want it. I appreciate everybody. We will subscribe to the feed. Please tell your friends. We'll be talking to y'all soon.
Hold on. I think he's still good enough to one-shot that. Okay, fuck this. Okay. Well, this is good. Kamala shocks Kyle with based policy agenda.
All right, y'all. Welcome to the show. I got a lot of catching up to do today. A lot of stuff to talk about. 19th. So, Kamala dropped her policy agenda. We're going to talk about it in just a second. We're going to go through everything that she released. Now, my guess is she focused most of this on the economic stuff. My guess is there are other parts to it as well, but I guess she might be rolling that out over an extended period of time. But we're going to dive into the economics portion, and I have a lot to say about it. So we'll dive into that. We'll also get into Republicans and their counterattacks to Kamala's policy agenda, and it is one of the saddest things I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it is. They somehow get worse and worse and worse every single day. You're not going to be surprised to learn that the accusations of communism are flying left and right, even by the big man himself, Donald Trump. And then we'll also talk about the scandal that dropped a few days back, the white guy tacos comment from Tim Walz, which led to Republicans accusing Tim Walz of racism and accusing Kamala Harris of racism. Okay, all right. Then we'll get to, of all the years that I've been covering Donald Trump, I think this Trump comment finally broke me. I'm not gonna share it now. I'm not gonna tease it, but just hang in there and wait for this segment because, as you'll see, this, in my opinion, from the Kyle perspective, this is one of his worst comments of all time. And then veterans are furious at Trump. I'll tell you why. Trump gave a speech where he deep-throated Israel repeatedly, and Dave Rubin with his, just a total mishmash compilation of all of his horrifically wrong predictions. That is glorious. You don't want to miss it. I mean, I gotta be honest with you guys, man. If a compilation came out of me making as many wrong predictions as Dave Rubin makes in this video, I have to be gonzo. I'm done. I'm gonna have to retire. I mean, I couldn't show my face in public ever again after the humiliation that comes about from this video. So everybody do me a big favor. Please like and subscribe. That helps massively. We're trying to get to 10 million subs. I know it's gonna take a while, but you build it one at a time. Thank you to everybody who supports the show on Patreon. That link below if you'd like help. Remember, I never talk to any advertisers, so you guys fund the show $2 at a time, $5 at a time per month, whatever it may be. So again, thank you very much for everybody who does it. And if you don't, please consider that's below. All right. With all that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into it. So Kamala Harris just unveiled her economic policy agenda, okay? And here I have an amalgamation of the different policies. What's kind of annoying about this is that there were a bunch of articles written on it, and for whatever reason, one article would leave out like 2 or 3 policies, and another article would leave out like 2 or 3 different policies. And it's like, I'm looking for the stuff that she released. why would you not give me the entire thing she released? It's very weird. It's very like lazy on the part of all the different news outlets that ran articles on this. It's like, give me all of them in one place. This isn't that much to ask for. So anyway, believe it or not, after reading all the articles, this summation right here is probably the best summation I could find. It was from one of the Krasenstein bros, hilariously. But so here's what she proposed. First of all, a $25,000 subsidy for first-time homebuyers. That's a federal subsidy of $25,000 for more than 1 million first-time homebuyers to assist with down payments. Now, she also says she wants to increase the supply. She wants to build 3 million more homes. So she's sort of attacking the housing affordability crisis from both ends.
Also,
$6,000 child tax credit.
This is mostly
to buy or even rent a home. Some corporate landlords collude with each other to rise a cost.
On it, basically what's happening is there's this price fixing algorithm where all these individuals, these landlords and corporate landlords in many instances, are illegally colluding to keep the prices artificially high. We just covered the story. We just covered it. And what she's saying is, I'm gonna crack down on that. I'm gonna crack down on that. They could ban that software that is basically price fixing software. This is big, and Trump hasn't said fucking dick about this sort of stuff. Nothing at all. So she's attacking this from every angle. And by the way, this is also an indication that she's onto the antitrust shit. So in other words, the fear about Kamala was, hey, is she going to revert back to the Obama economics instead of the Biden economics? The Biden economics, as you all know, include massive infrastructure spending, 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But more importantly, you have people like Lena.
Kamala smokes Trump in brutal debate. Fox News humiliated playing Got Ya with Kamala. Kolinsky's is more fair than that fucking breaking points, at least just outwardly. Debate with Hutch and Pondering Politics. Wow.
All right, guys,
Jesus,
I got
exposure.
some absolutely gigantic breaking news for you right now. So we just got the Iowa Seltzer poll that came in, and this is considered one of the gold standards for polls.
This fucking poll. I support Trump suing. I'm just kidding.
And I'll go through the history with you in a little bit of what their numbers were in the past and how close they were with their prediction and what it says for the rest of the election. But listen, Iowa's a state that is supposed to be very, very comfortably Trump. If you look at all the polls, we are hurting, we are hemorrhaging at the moment. We got to do something to try to stop the bleeding because look, let's just say it, right? Does this mean Florida truly is in play for Kamala, right? Does this mean Ohio might actually be in play for Kamala? I mean, now you begin to start having the conversations. Forget the 7 swing states we already talk about all the time. Are there other states that we don't perceive of as swing states that might actually be on the table now, right? I saw some polls coming out of Kansas that had her down like 5 points, right? I mean, in striking distance in Iowa, look, again, I want to be clear, even if she ends up losing Iowa, and let's say she loses by a point or two, that is still, this is what everybody needs to understand, that is still an absolute cataclysmic disaster for Trump and the Republicans. Because this does not bode well for their chances in the other states, right? Certainly not in the swing states. So, all right, y'all, welcome to the show. I got an awesome one for you today. We are going to, most people will remember walking out of this debate. There's a few of them. One of them is transgender operations on illegal aliens in prison. This is something Trump brought up as if, regular people would hear that and go, nice burn, you got them. When in reality, people heard that like, what the fuck is he babbling about? What does that mean? What are you talking about? It's like conservative Mad Libs, as many people pointed out on Twitter when he said it. So there was that moment on the issue of healthcare. Trump said, I have concepts of a plan. He was asked, what's your plan? He goes, I have concepts of a plan. That's going to go down in history as an epic flop. There's the very famous, this is probably the biggest moment. They're eating cats, they're eating dogs, they're eating the pets, they're eating the pets. Guys, you guys might know what he meant because you're brain poisoned and I'm brain poisoned and we all have internet brainworms. You might understand that. Like, 86% of the people watching that video are like, what the fuck is he babbling about? What does that mean? By the way, this is a literal fake news story ginned up by the right. A racist fake news story where they're leaning into Haitian immigrants are eating pets. And there's this epidemic of Haitian immigrants. Total nonsense. Not true at all. Absolutely absurd. And guys, this is what happens when you surround yourself with idiots like Corey Lewandowski and Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer, on the issue of Afghanistan, Trump again can't help himself, hammers Kamala for pulling out of Afghanistan with Biden. And what does Kamala say when she's asked about it? She goes, no, pulling out was the right thing. It 100% was the right thing. And I defend that and I stand by that. Yes, thank you. Fucking stand by it. Defend it. It's the right thing to do. And then what she did is she flipped it and said, you know what the main problem was with the withdrawal? You, Trump, negotiated to release like hundreds or thousands of Taliban members. And then those are the people who came and overthrew the government that we had there. Oh my God, she's killing him. She's killing him. She's killing him. On abortion, she absolutely clocked his ass. Here's my one criticism of Kamala. I would say, I know that her advisors are telling her, lean into being a moderate, lean into being a centrist, lean into being a unifier, lean into, hey, we welcome everybody in this campaign. And that is what she's doing. But you can also lean into the Tim Walz economic agenda, which is the most popular in the country. She didn't bring up free school meals for kids. She didn't bring up paid family leave. And I need them to understand that it's not electoral poison. This would help you massively with your campaign to lean into, yeah, we're going to do free school meals for kids, because then it baits the Republicans into attacking free meals for kids. It baits Republicans into attacking paid time off. So they're staying away from that. They shouldn't, but that was probably my biggest criticism of Kamala. But even on issues like the border, where Trump has a natural built-in advantage according to the polls, it's his strongest issue in the polls, even on that, he's self-destructed. He's self-destructed. So first of all, Kamala said, watch him bring up abortion like a million times, even when the question is not about abortion. Then Trump went on to do exactly that. It's literally like the Chris Christie, Marco Rubio moment from the last election, where Chris Christie said, look, he's got a 30-second memorized speech, and he's going to regurgitate it no matter what anybody says. And then Marco Rubio goes on to regurgitate the speech again, and Chris Christie's like, see, I told you. Devastating. The same thing. He's going to talk about immigration, even when immigration is not the question. And then Trump goes on to do that. And by the way, her rebuttal was exactly the thing that I thought it was going to be on immigration. Look, you attack us like we're in favor of open borders. I got bad news for you. We wanted to do the bipartisan border bill that was endorsed by the Border Patrol, which would put more Border Patrol agents there, and you called your Republican friends and said, kill it, because it'll hurt me politically. So you care more about yourself and your campaign than the country. You don't want to solve the problem. And his reaction? All right, guys, so we got some...
Just going by a title vibe, it seems like the majority of Kyle's coverage was like favorable leaning. Nowhere near the dick-sucking levels of the Republican Party, but nowhere near as bad as the majority reports. Jesus.
Some new numbers to discuss here about the presidential race. Now, look, to this point, we've been seeing poll after poll that shows Kamala Harris up and the lead was growing. And for a second there, it started to look like, hey, this might become a landslide. It might become a landslide because she had just kept climbing since she became, the Democratic standard bearer. Well, now she sort of leveled out a little bit, depending on which poll you believe. Maybe came back down to earth. It's very possible that the honeymoon is over in the sense that when she first came out, she was the new shiny toy for a while, and you had the DNC, which went well, and so they had just kept going up and up and up and up. Well, a poll just came out, and I think the reason why this is kind of a big deal, I think it's like an A-rated or A-plus rated pollster, like a massive sample size is part of it. I believe it was a New York Times poll, and that poll has her one down nationally. Now remember, if modern history is any indication, a Democrat needs to win by like 3 points or more in order to win the election. So that would mean effectively she's about 4 down in this new poll. Okay, so here we have Harry Ensign on CNN. He's going to break down where he thinks the state of the race is, and then I have a lot to say about it. Here we go.
And just point out how close this race has been consistently close. Our campaigns were any candidate led by.
Okay, warning signs for Kamala Harris emerge. My guess is this has to do with the polling and not necessarily thing. Okay.